Hey teachers, welcome back to Smart Teacher Money. All right, let's dive in and talk about something that, quietly controls so much of our lives, and that's debt.
I mean, think about it. Today, using credit and living paycheck to paycheck, it's just seen as normal, right? But here's the thing, it wasn't always this way, and it absolutely doesn't have to be your future.
Believe it or not, less than a century ago, using credit was actually considered reckless. Yeah, most Americans just lived on cash. In fact, high-interest lending was illegal, and borrowing was super rare. Living within your means, well, it wasn't some kind of special strategy. It was just life.
So what happened? Well, then came the 1920s, the Roaring 20s. Banks discovered there was a ton of profit in lending. Credit laws started to loosen up, and all of a sudden, people could buy cars, appliances, and homes all on credit. For the very first time, companies weren't just selling products. Nope, they were selling the dream of a better life, and it was available right now for a small monthly payment.
And just like that, boom, debt became socially acceptable. Now, of course, when the stock market crashed in 1929, the whole thing came crashing down. But, after the Great Depression and World War II, Americans got back to work. And as soon as money started flowing again, guess what else started flowing? The credit offers.
And the scale of this change is, well, it's just staggering. Get this, by 1950, the average American's debt was only about $1,500, and that's adjusted for inflation. Today, it's over $34,000 in non-mortgage debt, and credit cards alone average nearly $15,000 per household. That is a massive, more than 20-fold increase in the debt we carry around.
And you have to understand, this wasn't an accident, it was an invention. An entire credit culture machine was built from the ground up to make borrowing feel easy, smart, and totally essential. At first, it started small. Things like car loans and financing for appliances, stuff that felt like an investment. But then came the credit cards. By the late 1950s, you had Visa, MasterCard, and American Express turning buy now, pay later into a whole lifestyle. And then, in 1972, Sallie Mae changed everything. Suddenly, pretty much anyone could take on student loans. So you fast forward to today, and America's student loan debt is sitting at over $1.5 trillion. And guess who gets hit the hardest? We do, teachers, the very people who went into debt to educate others, a lot of times on salaries that make paying it all back feel like a lifelong burden.
This brings us right to the debt trap of today.
And listen, these numbers can feel really overwhelming, but they tell a super important story about, the water we're all swimming in. I mean, right now, 83% of adults have at least one credit card. It's gone from being a simple convenience to something that feels like an absolute necessity to get by.
And what's the collective results of all this? America's total household debt just crossed $38 trillion. To put that in perspective, that's more than the economies of China, Japan, Germany, and the UK combined. It's just a mind-boggling number.
All of this adds up to a national debt-to-GDP ratio of over 125%. So what does that even mean? Simply put, our country owes way more than it produces in an entire year. And debt has become so normal that people don't even question it anymore.
But hey, let's bring this down from the trillions of dollars right to our own front door. Because here is the single most crucial point. Debt doesn't open doors, it slams them shut. It literally steals your future income, it steals your peace of mind, and it steals your options. And as teachers, we feel that weight more than most.
Okay, but here is the good news. I promise, there's good news. You do not have to live like this. You can choose to break the cycle. You can choose to be debt-free, and you can choose to stop being normal. So how do you even begin? First, you start budgeting every single dollar. This just means giving every dollar a job to do before the month even begins, so you're the one in control. Next, start saying no to payments. This is a huge mindset shift from asking, can I afford the payment, to what's the total cost, and then choosing to save up and pay cash. And finally, you start saying yes to freedom. Because I really want you to hear this. Being debt-free isn't about being frugal, it's about being free. Free to leave a job you don't love, free to handle an emergency without that gut-wrenching panic, free to build the life you actually want, not just the one your payments say you can have.
And this is where it gets bigger than just our own bank accounts. Because as educators, we have such a unique opportunity to lead by example.
Look, you can't change how America's debt culture began. That ship has sailed.
But you can absolutely change how your story ends. You have the power to write a totally different ending, one that isn't dictated by interest rates and due dates.
You really can't teach financial freedom from a textbook, but you can model it. When we, as teachers, learn to manage money differently, we don't just change our own lives. We actually inspire our students to think differently about theirs. So let's be the generation that stops normalizing debt and starts normalizing wealth. Teacher wealth.